All right, good morning, everybody. I'm recording. Today, I believe, is day 27. Today is Wednesday, July 5th. I hope everyone had a nice 4th of July. Today, you are scheduled to be taking hands-on test number 5, which is on chapter 12. We're going to go over the test shortly, but first I want to go over the video that I did last weekend because my guess is most people probably didn't watch it. All right, so we're going to do that in just a minute. Tomorrow is Thursday, the last day of the week. We're only meeting twice this week. So I'm going to go over as much of chapters 13 and 14 as possible tomorrow. If we get done with both, great. If we only get done with part of them, that's fine too. On Monday next week, and probably we'll finish it on Monday, we'll go over chapters 15 and 16. All right. Then Tuesday, if necessary, and Wednesday, if necessary, we'll go over some of the homework and lab problems for chapters 13 through 16. All right. 1 week from tomorrow, Thursday, I have scheduled that as an entire lab day. So if students are behind, they can hopefully catch up. I have been grading and I'm just about up to date on the grading through chapter 11. If I'm not, I'm darn close. All right. So again, your chapter 12 hands-on test was distributed. It was emailed out to you this morning. I'm going to explain it shortly. It'll be due by midnight tonight. What I've decided to do was to push your chapter 12 and make that homework, labs, extra exercises, etc. All that work is going to be due basically a week from Sunday, so on July 16th. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start up a new project that I called emp test. That's the folder. So I'm just going to call the project the same thing. There's a reason that I'm doing this, so please bear with me. All right. So new project, it'll be a Windows form. I'm just going to call it, this will be emp test project. This will be emp test solution. And it'll be saved in a folder called emp test. All right, so emp test project saved in emp test solution. Okay, and I will make sure that I put this out on the, even though I've got something that'll be almost identical to it already out on the system. That's fine. All right. And this is going to be really simple, a really simple interface. I'm going to have in here a text box. It's going to be multi-line so that I can make it nice and big and long, etc. All right, so let me go to the multi-line. That's set now to true. We will put in here our typical 3 buttons. Okay, let's do what we always do here. So let's rename the form. Call it FRM employee test. Yes, I want to save it all over the place. And I will put the text in here as employee test, and UML, which we're going to talk about just a minute. Let's change the background color of the form. We'll make it that. And let's change the size of everything that's in here by, of course, changing the font size. All right, I'm going to make this right here. I'm going to call this text box TXT output. This first button will be BTN calculate. And it'll say calculate, whoops. Second button will say clear, and it will be BTN clear. And the last one will be our exit button. And again, just because I haven't been doing a good job of that all semester, before the calculate, let's put an ampersand. So we can also use that with a Alt-C. Clear will be an Alt-L. And the exit will be an Alt-X. All right. As always, let's lock the interface into place. Let's go back into here and set everything that we always set. That being, we will set the accept button to BTN calculate, the cancel button to BTN clear, the start position to, oops, try that again, to center screen. Let's take this and let's make this read only, but we will change the background color of it because that's pretty ugly. We'll make that. That should work. And again, we've got that read only. So let's set our tab order, and it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, even though we're not going to be going to that. That's okay. So view tab order, 0, 1, 2, 3, another view tab order. All right, that should all be set now. This will be our calculate that we're going to do in just a couple minutes. This will be clear, which will just be one line of code. So I'm just going to put in here txt output dot text equal, I could write another routine for that, but it's just one line. And then our exit, which we will call exit program or not, as I always do. Grab that from another program so we don't have to waste time in here. There is. All right, so we've got a lot of the program done already. All right, but the first thing I want to do is I'm going to remove these because I don't need them, but I'm going to put a comment in here. And I'm going to grab something that I have over here. So let me get rid of that. Get rid of that. Let me grab this. All right, I'm going to put that right here and move it over. Okay, what you see on your screen right here, right now, right there, is what's referred to as a UML or a Unified Modeling Language diagram. What it is it's a rectangle turned on its side, separated into thirds. In the first third up here, what you see right here is the name of the class that we're about to create. It's the name of the class. Then what you see in the second group here, these are the attributes of the class. And finally, what you see down in the third part of it is these are the methods of the class, just like that. So we're going to have a class that's named employee. All right. It's going to have 5 attributes: an ID, which will be of type integer. All right. I should do better with putting my commas in here. All right. So an ID, which is of type integer, a first name, which is a string, a last name, which is a string, a department, which is a string, and a salary, which is a double. Those are all private. And the reason I know they're private is when things are private, they're denoted by a minus sign. Then you'll notice on the bottom, things here are denoted with a plus sign. All right. So this right here, this plus sign, this is our default constructor. And this other one that you see right here, we'll just call that our full arg constructor. So we will have a class with 5 private attributes in it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 public methods in the class. All right. And again, this is called a UML diagram. UML is an acronym which stands for Unified Modeling Language. And probably, let's see once. Yep. If you want more on that, and I'm not saying you do or do not, but if you want some more on that, you can also go out to this URL. All right. It's under Lucidchart blog UML diagram templates, and it talks more about the use of UML. It's not perfect, but it's not a bad document either. All right. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to come in. This is what we want the class to look like. So maybe I should have put all this stuff that you see here under the class, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it right here. So I'm going to right mouse click on my mtest project, choose add, and I can either choose class right here, or I can choose new item. And I don't know why it does it like that. Show all templates. There we go. And choose class right there. Either way will work just fine. But I'm going to type in here employee.cs. There's my employee class. Now, probably the only thing I'm going to really use from here is system. So I can get rid of those. And typically we're going to take these and make these public. All right. All right. So that's the first part. Okay. That's the first part. Now, what did it say we were going to have? Well, if you'll take a look in here, the IntelliSense is trying to help me out right away, but I'm not going to let it. All right. I'm going to literally do this a different way. I'm going to do it kind of the way we started doing this. That is, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in private int underscore ID, private string underscore name, private string. In fact, that was first name and last name. So first name, private string underscore last name, private string underscore department, and private decimal underscore salary. All right. So those right there are what are referred to again. These are our instance variables. In other words, each and every time we create an instance of an employee or an employee object, each employee will have his or her own ID, which will be an int, first name and last name, and department, which will all be strings, and salary, which will be a decimal. All right. So what this does in here is it pretty much is what we just looked at here. Now I use the underscore. It doesn't matter if you do or not. All right. So let's come in next. The order in which you do these typically at least isn't going to matter. So let's do these two things next. Right? And it's probably going to end up giving me some errors because of the way I'm positioning stuff. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to put in here default constructor. Remember, constructor is always the word public, followed by the name of the class. And that's actually all of it right there. And remember what that's going to do. All right, I'm going to put a comment in here because we don't need any code. This constructor will set the following. All right. Underscore ID will be set to 0 because it's an int. Underscore first name will be set to the empty string. Underscore last name will also be set to the empty string. Underscore department will be set to, again, the empty string. And underscore salary will be set to 0.00M. What I did there, but something goofy. So that's what's going to happen, as my friend Doug used to always say, kind of auto-magically. You don't have anything you have to do to make that happen. All right, so that is our default constructor. Okay, then we will put in our full arg constructor. All right, and there's two ways that we can do this. All right, we will say public employee, and we're going to pass in an int for the ID and a string for the first name, a string for the last name, a string for the department, and its decimal for the salary, just like that. All right. Okay. And now, as it shows here, we can say ID equal ID, first name equal first name, last name equal last name, department equal department, and salary equals salary. That'll work just fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. All right. But what we want to be able to use in here are properties. We want to be able to use setters and getters. So even though this works, and you can see when you look in here, we have no errors. What does that mean? It means this works. This works, but I'm not going to do it this way. All right. I'm going to comment this out. Now, what I'm about to do, I'm going to end up getting errors, but we'll have to add some more code down here. And that is, we will add our getters and setters right here. In fact, let's just do those first. All right. So I'm going to say public int ID, and we're going to say get return ID and set, and that'll be ID equal value, exactly as it says right there. And we're going to set up the other ones in the same way. So public string first name. Again, we'll have a get and we'll have a set. Exactly as shown. All right, we'll do another one. Let me just copy this because it'll go a little faster. This will be the last name. All right, down below that, we'll put in another one. All right. And it will be, the IntelliSense was already kicking in, but department. All right. And the last one will be a decimal. And it'll be for the salary. All right, those are our getters and our setters. And they're really our properties because that's what this is making up. All right, now what I'm going to use in here is I'm going to say ID equals ID, first name equal first name, last name equal last name, department equal department, and salary equals salary. Again, good, bad, or indifferent, there are plenty of ways in here of doing virtually the same thing. And I'm showing you two of them. All right. Okay, the only other thing that I want to do, and this, we're going to get into this more. You won't have to use this on your test, but I want to get into this more tomorrow. And that is overriding another method in here that you get kind of by default. And that is what's called the toString method. Now, for some goofy reason, when you do this, it gives you this. I don't think I've ever used this return base dot to string, but it's fine. Okay. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to return something, yes, but we'll want to return a bunch of junk. And I'm going to put in here ID plus employee dot well, I'm not sure why it's giving me an error, but that's okay. Dot ID, and it'll be fixed. I have no worries. All right, plus \n plus, okay. And I'm just going to grab this. And this will be name. Okay. That'll be our first name and our last name. Let's see if we can figure out why this. This is the one that's already working. So what did I screw up here? Well, I'm going to just grab all of this. See if it gives me an error. Oh, I know what the problem is. I don't need to say the word employee. I did that when I was doing it the first time as well. So back to here and fix that. There we go. All right. What that is going to do is it's going to make our life a little bit easier when we go to print stuff out. And we've got a \r\n because we're putting this, remember, we are putting this into a, we're putting it into a text box. All right. So we now have this. I don't think it has any errors in it. I don't see anything marked up. There's no errors. Okay. And I will go and add the comments that I had in here before. In fact, do I have that up still? I do that. Did that. Oh, I already put the comments in. Okay, good. So let's go back to the form itself. Let's go back to the form itself here. All right. And we're just going to, all right, we've already done this. We've done this. So let's call instantiate some employee objects. Okay, I'm getting an error, of course, because that hasn't been written yet. So let's write that down here. All right. So I'm going to say here employee, we'll call it emp1 equals new employee. Okay. Now, before we go and put an employee emp2, which we'll do in a minute, let's say emp1 dot toString. That should print out everything that we had from here, but there aren't values in here. So it should have ID followed by a blank, and then first name followed by a blank. ID should be 0. First name blank, last name blank, department blank, salary 0.00. Let's see if that works. How do I know? Well, I can say now employee1.toString, that's good, but I want to set that. So say txt, what did we call that? Was it employee dot text equal that? That was the wrong name. So let's try it again. txt output dot text. All right. So this should instantiate an employee object, a new employee object using the default constructor. This will print out the default values. Let's see if it works. All right. First name 0, that's the default value. Default for string, last name and department are the empty string. And for salary, I did format it for currency, but it's 0.00. Okay. Now, let's fill in these values. And we'll use set methods. All right, so emp1 dot ID equals, let's just say 789. emp1 dot first name equal John. emp1 dot last name equal Doe. All right, so we've got the old John Doe. And finally, emp1 dot salary equal, let's say he's making $55,555.55. But since it's a decimal, we need an M there. After we do that, we're going to print out John's information. So print out John Doe's values. Now, if we do this, it'll print it, but it's not going to show the first one. So we'll say here plus equals, so it'll show them both. All right. So let's save this and run it again. So there's the first one, and there it is after we filled in John Doe's information. So far, so good. Even ClearWorks. and exit works. What I want to do is I'm going to change the font size on this and make it smaller. I'm going to cut it down to about 18. So then hopefully the whole thing will show on here. All right, because we're going to create or instantiate one more employee. So we instantiated a new employee object and printed out the values. Then we filled these values in and printed them out. All right, so finally, we're going to instantiate a new employee object. Using the full arg constructor. All right, so employee emp2 equal new employee, but this time we're going to give it all values. All right, so this will be Jane. Oops, we need first. How about 234 will be her ID. Jane will be her first name. Smith will be her last name. All right, just so it doesn't run off the screen, let's put it over 2 lines. Jane Smith, her department. What did we put down before? We never gave John Smith a department. Let's do that. And we'll say that that is programming. All right, so he's a programmer. She will be a web designer. And she will make $78,910.12, which again needs an M at the end. There we go. So again, let's print out Jane Smith's information. All right, now if I didn't give it enough room, I did. Oh, we didn't change her, did we not change her salary? We'll have to look. We got John Doe, we got John Doe again. Something's scooped up, so let's fix that. Oh, we didn't say emp2. Okay, try it again. All right, so we now have two employees. The first one shown with all the default values. The second one shown after we filled the values in. So the first one was created with the default constructor, and we added literally nothing to it. All right, so print out the default values. Then we filled in those default values. The second employee, 234, Jane Smith, we created her, and we created her using the full arg constructor. That's our program. All right, again, I can save this out there, but it already is out there. Just so you know, this whole program already is out there. I'll show you where it is in just a second. All right, let's take a look at the test. All right, so this is the test. In fact, I'm going to bring mine up and run it for you so you can see exactly what it should look like. So using your textbook, labs, and lecture notes, etc., complete the following test. All code submitted must be your original work, and it must be uploaded to your GitHub repository by midnight. Midnight. Tonight, Wednesday, 7/5/2023. Okay, all right, let me just save that. All right, so the first one, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with these is basically you want to create this is your form. This is it. This is everything. So it's going to have a title on it, a password cracker. It will have a label here that says MD5 hash. It'll have a nice big text box here that'll hold any one of these. It'll have a button that says crack, and it'll have another label down here. If you put in something like password in here, so if you put in the MD5 hash and you click crack for password, it'll come up with the word password. If you put in an invalid value, so not one of the ones shown here, and you put that in and click crack, it'll say fail, like that. That's all the program does. Now, to show you mine, because I do these tests as well, I don't want you to think that, yeah, he doesn't even do the darn test. Yes, he does. So let's see. See if I can run it from here. And here, I don't know if this will work or not, but I'm going to try it anyway. Not there. All right, so there it is. So if I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, like they said, all right, I added a clear and an exit. You don't have to because you're not asked to do that. I added an image here. You don't have to because you're not asked to do that. If I click crack, I said does not exist. You can say fail. You can do it whatever way you want. All right. On the other hand, if I put in one of these values, so let's grab this QWERTY thing in here. You should be able to copy these all in as well. If I put that in like that and click crack, well, that's nice, isn't it? It does work. I mean, I've used it before, so, well, I don't know what I did, but we'll try it again. See if we try it with password, if it works or not. Okay. There's password. Okay, so the idea is what you will want to do. Let me say this again. What you will want to do on this test is create a very simple form like this. Make sure, because we're going to go over how it's graded in just a minute, but you change the name of the form, give it that title. All right, set up your controls, give them good names, set up your accept button, etc. All right, think about how you could do these. You probably could set it up as some kind of a list. You probably could set it up as 1 or 2 arrays. So there's a bunch of ways that can be done. All right. So this is what's new. This says that you will have first of all, you will create a class that's called password. Okay. Second, you will have 2 different variables in there. All right, these are your 2 instance variables, underscore raw, which will be a string, underscore hash, which will be a string. You will have 2 different constructors, a default constructor, which again, by default, will set the raw instance variable to the empty string and the hash variable to the empty string. You will have another full arc constructor, which accepts raw as a string and hash as a string. You will also have 2 properties. Please notice both properties are read only. So in other words, with what I just showed you in mine here, you will not need a set. You will just do these get part for both of yours. All right. So the minus sign means that these are both private. The plus signs here means these are all public. In addition, you will have in the form, you will write a method called crack password. It will have a string passed into it, and it'll return a string. I'm going to say that again. It'll have a string passed into it, and it will return a string. All right. So as it says right there, crack password, a method in the form itself that takes that hash, whatever that is, and returns the new password if it's in the table like this, or fail if it's not. It's got to return null. It doesn't matter. Just delineate it some way. If you want the word null there, if you want the word null there, if you want the word fail there, or like I said, does not exist, any of those would be fine. All right, that's the first one. The second one, you are creating a network scanner. Much easier than it sounds. So let me close this one. Let me bring this up again. Not that. Let me bring up the key. And this is the network scanner right here. Okay, I put in an IP address such as 127.0.0.1, and I click scan. And it says, oh, that's my desktop. Here's that address. Here are the services that it provides. If I put in something that doesn't exist, request timed out, services, none. And you'll notice with the other ones that are in here, it also has these three. So let's try it, make sure those three work. So we'll clear, put that in. All right, Google services, DNS. You don't have to worry about what the services are. If you don't know what any of that stuff is, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Let's grab the last one here. And that's rankin.edu with these services. So let's look at this. A network scanner is a common tool for finding security gaps in a network. Create a prototype that accepts an IP address. That's what this is. All right, that's what you saw for the input. And based on that, shows you the services. So you'll notice 20 is FTP data, 21 is FTP control, 23 is Telnet, 25 is SMTP, etc. Okay. So that's if you put in yours, it's got everything. Here's if you put in something that it doesn't have. Right? I don't know why he used that same address in there, but you saw it happen when I did it. So let's look at the requirements here. Again, notice very, 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 very similar to what we just did for the other one. What do I mean? Well, you will create a class called computer. Just like in the other example, you created a class called password. Here we had 2 private variables. Here we have 3 private variables. You'll notice that services is an integer array. All right, there's different ways you can do this. Okay, if you decide you don't want to make that an integer array and you want to make that a string array, let's say. So it says 20 FTP data, 21 FTP control, etc. Totally fine. So if you don't want that to be you don't want that to be an int, if you want that to be a string array rather, please do it. Also notice only one constructor. There is no default constructor here. There is only a single constructor that reads in all three of our instance variables. Also notice, again, for the properties, they're public and they're all get, so they're all read-only properties. There's no write. All right, this one's going to make you think, and that's a good thing. All right. Plus, this network scanner form, these are the two methods you have to write in the form itself. All right, so the user can enter an IP address, just like we showed right here. If the IP address is in the table, display the available computer info like this. If the IP address is not in the table, display the output as shown. These two methods, the first one, notice both of these methods take in nothing. All right, so both of these methods, neither one has any input parameters. So scan IP, as it says, is a method in the form. It takes an IP address and it returns the computer with that IP address. All right, what does that mean? Does that mean you do need an IP address? It depends on how you write it. Or it returns null if there's nothing. Again, you can say none, you can say null, whatever you'd like. The show computer takes the results of the scan and displays the appropriate info. All right. So here's the rubric. They're very similar for the two. Number one, or first, controls are laid out as expected. It should look like this right here. And it should look like this right here. You do that, that's 8 points, 4 for each example. If you rename the form, really you should put the same text in there. I should have said that, I didn't. But the first one should say, so rename the form, call it FRM password, FRM cracker, whatever you like. This should say password cracker. You can call this form something like FRM network scanner, and with a text there, network scanner. You do that, that's already 18 points with you doing almost nothing. All right. If you name your controls and your variables using the conventions we've shown, text boxes starting with TXT, buttons starting with BTN, labels starting with LBL for your controls and for your variable names if they make sense. All right. So what is that? 4, 5, 9, 15. That's 30 points right there you'd have before you even write any code. All right. Next, UI implements all requested functionality and it does it correctly. All right. The password class, notice it's 10 points. 3 for you setting up the fields, 4 for you setting up the two constructors, 3 for you setting up the properties. And I just went over how to do that. Finally, 5 points for the cracked password method that you put inside of the form itself. 4 plus 5 is 9 and 3 is 12 and 3 is 15 and 20 is 35 and 3 is 38 and 4 is 42. Is 3 is 45 and 5 is 50 points. All right, so that's 50 of your points. Then the second one, again, controls laid out as expected, form rename, start position, accept button, cancel button, tab order configured as shown. All right, control names, variable names follow the conventions. A computer class is created. Really, there's only one constructor on here. All right. The scan address method is implemented as shown. The show computer method is implemented as shown. And the user interface implements all of the requested functionality. So if you look at that, 4, 9, 12, 15, 18, 22, 25, 30, 35, 50 points. All right. The only other thing that I want to mention to you, let's see, and that is this. If you go out to here, and I'm going to put it out in real big letters in just a second, but if you go out to here and hit enter, all right, this URL that you see right here, this URL right there, is the one that I created over the weekend and I just redid for you at the beginning of class. If you have any questions today, please feel free to email me at jpscott@rankin.edu. All right, I will be online at least till 2:30, and after that, I will be checking for email about every 15 minutes or so. All right. Last night was a rough night. I tried going to bed at 11. However, there were still people blowing off fireworks well into the night. So I will probably be going to bed tonight by 9 p.m. The reason I'm telling you that is if you have questions, please direct them to me before 9 p.m. All right. With all that said, good luck. I hope you all do fantastically on the test. Tomorrow we will go over chapters 13 and 14. I will talk to you at that time. Have a great day. Thanks.